Okay, we've got two items to add to the agenda that we need to act on tonight. I'm gonna have it go under we'll just call it 9.5, which is first item will be from Western Surety Company. Or no, that's not it. It's a note from Mr. Jasmine concerning the turf that we did at the high school last year and getting the area around the throwing sectors of the field fixed with turf and the cost to associate. I think you guys all have that addendum out there to you. It's been added to you. And then second item to add would be that we got the bids back for the stage shell that they're quite a bit higher than what we had originally voted on, which would be about $20,000 more. So we need to add those two to the actions. We'll call those 9.5 and 9.75. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Let's see, we'll go on to communications. Public correspondence. Do we have any? Okay, we'll look at board action of the minutes from our November 1st meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? If so, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as reported.
I'll motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll go on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Duncan? Scott, you need to turn your mic on too.
There are better ways. Okay. Beginning balance, Rock Springs National, 709,964.57. There was interest earned for the 3 months through December of 762.74. County treasury receipts of 546,757.78 for an ending balance of 1,257,485.09. In the WGF account, beginning balance of 9,105,924.07 with interest earned through December 827.33 for an ending balance of 9,106,751.40. Combined cash balance of 10,364,236.49.
Okay. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Having none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as given.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Move on to the warrants and reimbursements, the general fund.
Okay, so the single item before you is a warrant, and this is for the Rock Springs High School track and field replacement. And so we paid Hellas Construction largely out of major maintenance funds, but this was a rec board's portion. And so we squared up in terms of the amount of money that was owed them to date, less their retainage. And so as a result of that, there's a negative amount of about 14,000 that technically the is owed back to the rec board. But what I like to do is have this one approved. We'll hold the reimbursement back to the general fund until we get enough to cover that minus amount, and then everything will be square. And the remaining cost to this, to my knowledge, for the rec board will then be the retainage amount of those jobs. And so once that is released for those retainage amounts, then I think that will be square.
Any questions, concerns about that? All right, so you want to hold up? We have to move on that though.
Yeah, we need to approve this one, but then we'll just hold this until our next meeting to approve the reimbursement back to the general fund.
So we need to move on it now though, right? To do it, or you want to wait?
No, we need to approve this one.
Okay, I entertain a motion to accept the reimbursement of the capital improvements from Hellas.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, you right. Scott, is this other one part of it, or is it already done?
I'm sorry.
Is there any more on the warrants?
No, that's correct. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to board information, update on projects. Is that you, Dan?
Okay, most of the projects that we have pending, such as the impact testing, putting in the scoreboard that we took, and we're going to put over in junior high.
Zach, can we get him? I can barely hear you.
Okay, how about that?
That's better.
All right. Most of the projects that we have that are pending, such, to do with the fields, track and fields, junior high, with the scoreboards, the impact testing at all of our fields, things like that, they'll be coming up in the springtime. So there's really not a whole lot going on with those. We are in the process of scheduling a geo study for the junior high track, and we're working with the engineer for the design so we can go out to bid for the track replacement at the junior high. Stagecoach gym floor. If you folks have a chance to go out there and look at Stagecoach gym floor, it is complete. It looks spectacular. I mean, the floor, if you didn't know that it was some sort of a vinyl floor, you'd swear that it was maple, solid maple. They did a really good job putting it in. It's complete. Looks good. The kids have been using it, and so that one has been done. We do have the split. 30% is rec board, 70% is major.
So did they do something different? I know they put a new floor in, but where the crack was?
Yeah, what we had to do, just because a lot of folks that are listening, and plus maybe some of you guys don't realize, in order to make that right, what we did was we pulled the geo study. Well, I pulled the geo study on the plans, and the geo study actually gave directions on what to do as far as the original construction. For whatever reason, it was just, it turned out that it was just the compact native soil. So what we end up doing is we went in, removed all the concrete. Once we removed all the concrete, we over excavated. We brought in some W base, and then we brought in some gravel. We put like a grid inside. So there's, imagine footings that are laid out in a grid. And then, so that gym floor currently that's in there is 4-inch concrete, 4 or 6 inch, I don't remember. And it's suspended. So it has a gap between the bottom of the floor and the W base and the gravel. So it's all reinforced concrete. The old concrete that we pulled out was not reinforced. One of the things that we found when we pulled it out was the old floor actually listed to the north. There was about a 3-inch difference when we put the new floor down. So all of our cove base molding and plus around the doors, we actually had to re-pour it and use hand labor in order to get it so that the door jambs that are into the building footings would line up with the floor. I mean, the original floor when it was put in was just way out of whack. We had to redo all of the doors because now when they opened up in some areas, the doors were too big. And in order to get all that equipment in, we had to cut out a new access into the gym. So we put a 2 3-foot doors, and we had to put headers in order to support the roof structure. So there was an awful lot of work that had to go on just before we can even get in the building to over excavate. But I'm really confident. It's a beautiful floor. It should last a long time. DiBernardis did the concrete work. Did a really nice job on suspending that floor. The guys did it in a real timely manner. The cleanup looked good. The floor looks good. This floor should last for a long time. One of the things that came out in the structural study was, we put these Mow strips around the buildings. And the thing with Mow strips is they put them there so that you don't have to run grass clear up to the building. The problem with the Mow strips is when they put them in, they don't compact the soil next to the foundations. And so the Mow strips end up moving. And we went around the building and we took pictures of where the roof drains come down, hit the Mow strips, and then go back into underneath the footings and foundation. So one of the recommendations that came out was that we go around to all of our schools and remove the Mow strips and put something else in place, because we do have movement at some of our newer schools, and they do have the Mow strips. And when you correlate where the Mow strips are versus where the movement is, it's the same. So most of that has been rectified as far as the floor. Floor has been 100% completed. Looks really good. And like I said, if you have a chance to go out there and take a look, you really should, because it's spectacular.
Okay, good.
Other than that, the turf between the shot put areas, I think is that what he's
Yeah, that'll
requesting?
be
Yeah.
after item 9.
Yeah, so we'll address that, or you guys will address that. Then the other thing is the maintenance of the fields, and we'll address that in the next item too.
Are there any questions on the recreation projects?
Excuse me, Leo, can I add that the wrestling mats for, it's listed as junior high, they should be for the high school, but that's another item to correct that. But those have been ordered, they haven't been received yet, but that's the update for the wrestling mats.
Yeah, those are for the junior high, aren't they?
They're actually for the high school, but that's one of these other, that's actually the next agenda item.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to board action on the wrestling mats. I guess that's to you, Scott.
Yep. So what happened was in the beginning, when we worked up the preliminary budget, that the request was for wrestling mats for the high school, but there was a clerical error that I listed it for the preliminary budget as the junior high, but it really should be to the high school. And so all of the following budget amounts, have it listed as the junior high, but they really should be for the high school. And so this amendment is to correct the location of those mats.
So was the junior high looking for their mats?
No, I think they got theirs back, did they not?
Yes.
Because they were
They did.
borrowing one from the junior high, and then when they purchased these mats, they gave that
Okay,
one
gave them back.
back.
Okay. All right, so we need to entertain a motion to change the budgeted amount of $10,740 for wrestling mats for the Rock Springs High School and not the Rock Springs Junior High.
So moved. Yep, I'll motion.
We got a motion of John and a second by Mark. All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion carried. Go to item 9. That's already been taken care of. Do we have to vote on that? I already
Yeah,
signed it.
yeah, you did, but that's why you had to sign it before we voted
Okay.
on it. Anyway, it's the time of the year to renew our bonds with our insurance company. They're running out the middle of this month. And so this item is to approve the bonds for the chairman for 10,000, vice chairman for 10,000, and the treasurer for 50,000. And everybody should have received copies of those.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the specified amount of the bond issues from the Western Surety Company.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to motion number 9.5 on the track growing area. Is this yours, Dan? Or Mark?
Yeah. So we previously approved the amount to put the turf in between those discus throw or the shot put throwing areas. Well, 6 months later, we approved it and the costs came back in higher, of course. So this is asking for the updated amount. And I
The
believe
original price was
10,000, I believe. Yeah, 9,700.
the new amount's 36,600,
Well, no, the new amount, if you'll look, it's 12,000.
485.
Yes. But they also gave him a quote to put turf along the track fence area where it is not concrete, because Tom is requesting that. But that wasn't something we originally approved, but I think Tom is asking to get that done.
Can we add that?
Could we get that cheaper through concrete or something? That's really not, it's only like 4 foot wide,
Yeah.
150 yards. That's outrageous.
It is. I think we got that center section done over there when Hellas was originally doing stuff.
Mhm.
And I believe that cost us 18,000. And I'm just shooting off the top of my head.
Center section between the pits.
You know where the benches are on that same side? There's
Oh,
concrete
there's
underneath
concrete there,
those.
so we could just,
Yeah, it would just need to be extended both directions. So it's not quite 150 feet, but
is that something that, is this a package or are we looking at?
It's
just
not.
Okay.
It looks
Yeah,
like
we
we
could-
can do it in items, so we can
Yes.
vote. We could
Okay.
take a vote on the
On the
price increase for the discus area and shot put area, and then we can go to the north side of the track after that.
okay.
You have any more questions or comments on that second piece? We'll just move on to it then. Entertain a motion to accept the increase of $2,485 for the synthetic turf around the shot put area.
hey, Chairman, I'm going to abstain from voting on this because it's most likely a project that I'll be overseeing.
Yeah, so for clarification, that these funds will be coming from the discretionary line item. And we just moved out into that. budget.
So the motion would be approving the $2,485 increase coming out of the discretionary fund to pay for this
Is
pricing.
that 2,000 or 12,000?
Well, it was 10,000 to begin with.
I got that.
It was legislative.
Okay.
So I entertain a motion for the approval of the additional increase coming from discretionary fund.
All motion.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to the second piece of that, which would be the synthetic turf north of the track.
Question on that one. Is there anything time sensitive about that they couldn't turn this into us in March? Put that on the next year?
Other than cost increase, I mean, we saw how much the discus or the shot put
I
area went.
struggle a little bit with that because everything else has to be in on a certain time and then this just gets kind of thrown in with something else.
Right.
I'm not against the project, but it just doesn't seem to follow the same pattern.
You know, as Mr. Biter said, I would suggest that we get some pricing on doing concrete over there.
I would do
On the north
concrete
end?
and
Just
slope
to
it away,
compare.
so you have some drainage there instead of
Yeah.
having something pond up and get under the track on that side. But it doesn't, that's really expensive for what you're doing.
Okay.
And no one sees it. It's, I know he put it, it enhances the area, but.
And Mr. Jasmine's
unless you
trying
move the
to
railroad tracks.
mitigate the weeds that grow over there. the concrete would do the same thing. So I think we probably should maybe
Do you
hold
have
off
some-
on this.
Do you have some projects, concrete projects going up there around that track that are repair or anything? Where we could put them in together with something else?
You know,
that's the
if anything that gets out there now to be by Hellas as a repair order from the original
Okay.
project, so we wouldn't be able to lump that in there. But yeah, I still think we should probably look at getting some quotes from somebody and just compare it to the 30-some thousand. I mean, I do know that, just for example, we did the sidewalk in front of the bleachers up at the top, the whole length, and it was 12,000. I mean, that's comparable to what we're looking at down there, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
you're not gonna get any use out of it. You can't
Yeah.
work out on it. It's as wide as this table.
Yeah,
Well, then I'll entertain a motion to table the second portion of this and then have you go back to Mr. Jasmine and talk to him.
May I make a suggestion? It may be best to deny this project and then let it go again, because if you table it, you have to bring it back.
Okay.
Action at the next.
All right.
So we just won't make a motion to approve.
for motion to deny it, right?
So, well, I can just put it out for a motion and nobody.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the synthetic turf north of the track. Is there a motion to accept the north end of the track to be synthetic? Is there a motion to accept the synthetic turf on the north end of the track? Hearing none, motion denied. Okay, we go on to 9.75, which will be the shell discretion. Their increase, Mark?
So we're going to be going out to bid for these shells because of the cost. So we received the specs from the company that they would like to get their shells from. It came along with an updated quote. And the quote was $20,000 higher than the original quote. So the money that we approved for this project is not enough. So we need to look at either raising that amount or
Was this a bid project?
we are going to go out to bid. This was just a price that they
So
sent
this
us.
was a budgetary number they gave us?
Yes,
And we approved the first number as a budgetary number?
yes.
Well, so if you're going out to bid, do we actually need to have the increase?
Probably not, but I'm sure the bids are gonna come in at least that much higher.
Part of that.
And I would think that if,
What's that? It's about 20,000 higher. I think we approved 170,000. And it came in at 190,100 something. I asked the high school to get that to us for this meeting. It's not here, so.
What was the time frame on that, Mark?
As
Where
far
were
as,
they, when did they want this? I mean,
it was over a year ago that they got the original quote,
oh, okay,
and then it came to us.
okay.
so
So
we haven't moved on it in about a year then?
we moved on it and approved it the last rec board meeting, I believe, right, Mr. Duncan?
Well,
Look at
we
the
still have to
minute.
go out for bids, right? So the-
Right,
Yeah,
but we approved the funds, the last.
I think it was in the original budget. Yes, as a list of.
Yes, the
projects
one
for
in
this-
March that
For
we
this year.
went through.
Is it something we could follow the rest of the amount with the discretionary?
Well, I guess,
So I think instead of raising that amount, if we could take the overage out of the discretionary fund, I don't even know if we need to have action on that, do we?
well, that's what I'm kind of wondering. If you're going out to bid, bids may come back the same way. Someone may come lower.
They may.
So if you put another number in there, you're just telling them, well, go ahead. and
We'll
give
go
us that
higher.
number. That's
We'll
what you're
go
gonna
higher,
get.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Is there any movement that you have to do on that, or?
If we don't change anything, no. So the way it would roll though is you probably want to, Mark, make sure that they'll hold their price for a time long enough where we could have a rec board meeting after the bids come in and before the quotes expire. Because that way then the board can decide whether they wanted to
Okay.
fund that job at that price or not. The other option would be to go ahead and approve it up to an amount not to exceed whatever that would be, and, let the process follow from there. It would still have to come back to the rec board to approve the bid anyway. So, it's probably just simpler
if we
to,
put a limit on exceeding, then if the bids come out higher than that, then we have to.
Then you have to take action, and
we're
it's
gonna have to
another
take
meeting.
action again.
we
After
would,
that.
yeah. So it may be the most efficient just to see how the bids come in and then make the quotes, last till our next meeting. When is our next meeting?
May 5th.
May 5th. So I don't know if that's enough time or not, but maybe you can time it like that. So,
I do believe we can get out to bid and get bids back by then, and then just tell them in the bid packet that it has to have a price that's good until the 10th of May,
or the end of May or something.
or the end of May, yeah, so we can move on it. And
Yeah.
most of them will call and talk, and we can explain to them the reason why.
Okay, yeah, and on second thought, you might want to extend that afterwards because in a perfect world, the rec board is normally before the school board. So if we can get it through the rec board's approval and then on to the school board's approval, within that same week, that would be good. But if for some reason
Yeah.
either one or the other board doesn't approve it, it gives us one more month to get that done.
But I can tell you in this day and age, and I think Mr. Celeroli can vouch to, we get bids on things and people tell us prices are good for days, let alone months that we're talking about, so.
Mr. Chair, if we got into a bind, we could always do a special board meeting.
That's what I was just
to
thinking.
come in and get, seek approval from this board and then we go from there. Similar to what we did for the Roscoe's High School track and turf field. We had lots of special meetings to get that one.
Perfect.
So what's your pleasure?
I say we just let it ride, let it go out to bid.
Yeah.
And then see where things come in at.
Do we need to vote on that?
I
We're
don't,
not changing anything. It's
Yeah,
already been.
I don't
approved.
believe so. It would just be in the minutes as a board information item, I guess. Because we're not really taking any action.
Moving on. Board discussion on the landscaping sod at Pilot View. Park Springs Satellite High School, Sage Elementary, Stagecoach, and District Property. Your discussion?
It is. Chair Gray, members of the board, last time we met, one of the things that I said that I was going to do is get maps. And on those maps, I would designate the square footages that we're asking for the rec board to take care of. Now, we had two sets of maps going to Zach. One set of maps was a Google Earth of all of our schools. And on my set of maps that Zach can put up on the screen here, I didn't include all of the schools, and I'll give you this in my explanation. Because over at the high school, the junior high, and Farson, the rec board actually pays for the maintenance of the turf fields, the replacement of the turf fields, I should say. And so we already have established, there is a cost to the rec board for those fields. Wamsutter, honestly, it's such a small field, I just forgot all about it. It's less than half an acre. But if, Zach, can you put up that list and, okay, looking at this field, you can see where I put the yellow lines around. Okay, and when, you can look at all of them, but what I did was I went down and I calculated how many acres per school. Then I called around and I got some prices for what does it take to maintain, what was the average cost of mow and grow type maintenance. Mowing, weed trimming, and, just whether it's weekly, monthly, however we want to do it. The average cost goes from $225 an acre to $300 an acre. Okay, so what I did was I took the $225 an acre, and I just went through and, over at Lincoln, this is Lincoln, we have 1.5 acres. Go to the next one, Zach. Next one should be East Side.
So you're saying it went, does that include the watering too?
No, this is just maintenance of the fields. I haven't had time really to pull our utility costs and break it down to see, but just to give everybody an idea, because originally, and correct me if I'm wrong, but originally when we talked about it was, I was going to narrow these down as to what we actually are asking for. We're not asking really for the playgrounds, because we maintain the playgrounds with the wood chips and things like that, because those are the majority of those. Percentage wise, the higher percentage is with the school district uses those. It's the fields that we're asking we need the maintenance in, because quite frankly, we're overwhelmed. Yeah, we will ask for water, but just to give you an idea where we're at per school, per acre, this is the cost. And also, if and to include the acreage that we're asking help with. Okay, so the first school was Lincoln. Lincoln has 1.5 acres. Eastside has the 1.5 acres. That's that one field. Pilot Butte and Sage, I didn't split those up. We just kind of lumped them together. Those are 8 acres. That's our largest area. Overland field right over here has 1.5 acres. Washington, we still have to maintain Washington unless we, dispose of the building. And even then, I don't know if we're going to keep the property. That hasn't been set yet. But right now, that's roughly 1 acre. Lowell has 0.5 acre. Stagecoach has 4 acres. North Park has 2 acres. Desert View has 3.5 acres. And Walnut has 4.5 acres. So we have a total acreage count of 28 acres that we need help maintaining, minus the water. I just haven't had time to get with the water yet. So the visits that we get, if you look at $225 to $300 an acre, that is per visit. So if you look at one visit, 4 visits a month, because if you put, the more water you put to it, the more you have to, more water or the more you have to maintain them. You're looking at 4 times, 4 times a month over the period from mid-May to mid-September. So I came up just some rough numbers, roughly $33,000, just field maintenance, cutting lawns and trimming, roughly $34,000 a month for the maintenance of the fields, and that's carried over a 4.5 month period.
So is that for the whole lot or just
That would be for 28 acres.
how much?
28 acres.
So this is what you were talking about, contracting that out?
That's
And
where
having
we
having
need
a
the help.
Contractor do it instead of the school district?
Yeah, these numbers are from a contractor, and when the time comes, we'll have to go out to bid, to get actual numbers. But from everybody that I called around, those are the range that I have. And I went with a guy who, he does quite a bit of work for us throughout the course of the year. He's pretty reliable. He's been really good to deal with, and his number came in at roughly $225 an acre.
You did it for 4 months.
I would say probably from mid-May to mid-September.
You're talking about roughly 150,000.
Yeah. Yep. I got like around 154, somewhere around there.
But we're not taking any action on that, correct, Scott? We can't, or did we already take action on that?
I don't think we took.
We just brought it
Yeah,
up.
this-
I think you were just going to bring
This
it back
was
to us.
right. This was just to give me a chance of several things. One, not just to come up with a per acre price or, what a cost was, because this time of year, honestly, it's tough to get guys to call you back, talking to maintenance of maybe another month or two, and they'll be a little more eager. But the other thing too was to look at the maps and make sure that this is a fair assessment of, what the district and the rec board, come to agree on. I looked at when I looked at doing this, I looked at, okay, in the evenings, where's the use on the fields? Is it in the playgrounds? No, not really. And we do have some neighborhood kids that do use the playgrounds, but mainly you have the Pee Wee football, you have the kids Little League baseball. We're going to have girls, softball, which just because the school district has a softball now, that's going to probably generate more interest, I would think, in the younger gals, for the city leagues. They're going to need places to practice and play. Our fields at nighttime in the summertime and then into the fall are, they're used quite a bit. And I would venture to say that other than recess, I think most of our fields are probably used more by the communities, soccer and things like that over summer, than they are by the schools.
I agree with that.
And they were actually built, I think. Scott, you can correct me because, I wasn't here. I was here when we did Stagecoach. Black Butte doesn't really have a field to worry about. But that was done with, they were enhancements, which enhancements usually were paid for by rec mill dollars. So even at the time when we built them, it was designated that these pieces of property basically were rec mill projects.
So is this contractor you talking, is he using his own equipment, providing all
Yes.
his own fuel,
Yep.
everything?
He brings his guys in, they haul out of the trailers, and one of the things that I sent him, the same maps that we have here. Those are the maps that I sent him. He's familiar with our district because, like I said, he does quite a bit of work. So he was comfortable giving me, numbers based on past experiences and what he charges, like Pinedale, Big Piney, things like that.
So if you go in that direction, what do you do with all the equipment the school district owns?
Okay, we're still going to have some lawn that has to be maintained. I mean, I've been here now 8 years, going on 8 years, and I've been working with you guys for going on the same amount of time. And I try to hit a fair balance as to, what the rec mill is legitimately, should be paying for. I know you guys sometimes laugh when I say 70-40 or 70-30 or whatever, but honestly, we're still going to have some grass fields. You take the practice field in between the high school and the tennis courts. Okay, the community doesn't use that field. We do. So we'll maintain those type of fields. I mean, I'm trying to find a balance where I'm not just dumping everything on the rec board, to pay for. But I do really feel strongly that the fields that our community uses is really becoming a burden on the district. And most of them were built with enhancement money or extra money during good times. And certainly not, we would not be allowed these same fields in today's economy with the School Facilities Commission.
So would that have to be brought up as a budget item at the next go around?
Well, that would be up to
Submitted.
the discretion of the board, yes. And if they're going to start in May, then it would have to be this year's
Our meeting,
budget
our next meeting's not till June, is it?
until May
May
5th.
Fifth.
And for clarification, Dan, that's 34,000 per month for 4 months?
Yes.
Okay.
And those are rough numbers based on what I was given. Like I said, if I can get together and we can advertise the next 2 weeks, see if we get any interest, and at least we'll have numbers. Nothing says that we have to take those numbers. I mean, heck, I go out to bid lots of times and numbers come in too high. But I can sure get official numbers by advertising in the paper, so we can actually solicit so that we would have numbers by the end of February. And then I'll need to get with you and sit down and see what our cost difference is in the water, because I'm not sure. I know some schools have separate meters. Some we just, I don't know how that water bill is actually, because that's not my wheelhouse. But if we can look and see what the general average cost increase is, come up with some kind of a number for that. But as far as the maintenance of the fields, I can get those numbers, I'm confident, by the end of February.
So you're gonna you'll go out for bid
Correct.
to
If-
see. So it'd be a public bid type
Yes.
thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's over $50,000 worth of service. Yeah. Now, and plus, you folks need to look at the map. And if we're in agreement, then I know that I can move forward. If there's a discrepancy in, somebody that doesn't think that, hey, how come this field is on here?
Okay.
That was the whole idea of tonight, me
Okay.
giving this
I don't
presentation.
understand.
In that, is that fertilizing, and is there more to it than just mowing? Because fertilizer is
Right. When I
expensive equipment
asked
and-
for the bids, I told him to maintain our fields. And actually, I talked to two guys, and I told him I need a price per acre to maintain fields, and what you normally do, for whether it's another school district, whoever their customer is. And I didn't get a breakdown and everything. They just gave me this number and says, based on this acreage, this is how much. Now, when we go out to bid, all that information will be included in the request for.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to determine who's gonna make irrigation repairs,
Yeah.
you guys or them.
Yeah, and to address that now, if it comes to irrigation and we have a break in a pipe, that becomes a major maintenance issue. So I can ask for that
Are you willing to break
as a
that?
line item, but it's
Are you
not
willing to break all that out?
detrimental to, the cost
That makes sense, the water part.
for the rec board.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Would you like them to put those,
I-
go through the schools again or on the board?
If we're looking at, I guess it's, my opinion is, how many summer employees are we going to have in these areas that they aren't going to maintain? Do we have other people to maintain? My opinion is Overland wasn't enhanced. Walnut wasn't enhanced. So if we're putting out a lot of money for places that we didn't enhance. What kind of summer crews are we running, are we going to? If this doesn't work, are we gonna have a summer crew that does this, or are they just gonna sit?
No, normally what happens is we do advertise for summer crew and
Okay.
we do put on a crew. This year, I think we advertised, we were going to hire 6. We end up with 5. And at any given time, we were lucky to get 4. I mean, and I think we pay pretty good for summer crew,
For
summer
sure.
help. But we just can't get people to do the work.
Yeah.
I know the city goes through the same thing. You guys use Elwood Services. We go through Elwood Services, honestly, because we can't go through the process and then you have to fire somebody because of no call, no show, not once or twice, but 3 times.
Yeah.
It's easier to deal with, temporary service agency. You can pay them a little bit better, because of lack of benefits on our end. But it is very difficult to maintain a 4-man crew. We generally carry 2 people in house, and a lot of times we'll swing another facility guy over. This year, I'm hoping to have a pretty good, be close to fully staffed, so we can do that. So that gives us, generally speaking, 2 or 3 guys in house that have that responsibility of helping out. We always have 1 grounds guy, on duty, and usually he has a helper. So there's 2 that are in grounds from the district, and then a lot of times we'll swing Steve, because Steve used to be in grounds, and so he has some background in grounds. We'll swing him over. We have enough guys in grounds, and none of our guys are, to the point where, they're not going to do something because it's grounds and they're,
Yeah.
XYZ. I mean, so we do chip in and help out when we have to. But as far as, maintaining the small amount of grounds that, we will have, I think that we can maintain it in-house. Now, to go back to your comment about Walnut, and I agree with you, those weren't built in hands, but those were built in times where the district had cash. Same thing with Overland. But the reality is, because of that hill up there, rarely do you see, our students and staff up on that top hill using that baseball. I mean, you just don't see it. Overland, you'll see the kids during lunch or recess. But come the fall and early spring when they have soccer, that's where you see them. And those, there are kids,
Yeah.
but they're community-based activities. So, I was just showing, we have an awful lot of property that was purchased with enhancements or purchased when things
Sure.
were good. And now things aren't so good, but we still do provide these areas for the community. We're not shutting any fields down. Mrs. McGovern has told us numerous times, I want the grounds looking good and I want the kids, I don't want them playing on hard grass. It requires a lot of water. The more you water, the more you mow. Then you've got aerating, you've got, fertilizer, as you guys said. So they are a
Yeah,
lot
I think
of
if it's an all-inclusive thing, that's a good deal. But if we have to mix and match with us and them, it's going to be a cluster.
Well, I can tell you, just give you kind of an example. I know that we can do it because I've done it before. In my past district, the rec board, there is no rec board, no rec mill. All the money that they collect from the rec mill goes to the recreation center. And the rec center in turn mows all of the schools' fields. They take up all the schools' fields from, it doesn't matter if it's a small little league baseball to their major, soccer fields. And the school district is responsible, just like the SFD has a designated zone around the school district takes care of that and they take care of repairs. But I mean, for those of you who've ever had kids play soccer in Evanston, Evanston's pretty rich in soccer fields, football fields, baseball fields, and all of that, even though it's owned by the school district, is maintained by the rec board. So I do know that it can
That
work
works.
because I was part of it for 9 years.
Any more discussion?
So this wasn't in any 5-year plan or anything, even on the general fund side, the services to maintain?
The services to maintain have never been, but in saying that, they are on the new proposed that goes to the board. It is on that now.
The maintenance of the land that we were talking about, the maintenance of the fields?
The maintenance of the fields that we are talking about tonight
Yes.
is on my facility plan for local and for the state that I have to submit.
Okay, that's going to the board on Monday.
Correct.
Now, if it's coming out, I noticed he's got it here, deferred maintenance projects. That's where you're talking of pulling the cash instead of making a budget item for to do this. You're just pulling the cash out of the deferred maintenance account. Is that what I'm hearing?
Normally, it would be deferred. It would be the deferred
Which means he
maintenance.
doesn't have to come back with us for a budget line?
Well, we might want to continue the discussion with that coming out of deferred maintenance because the purpose of that is to replace the project at the end of its useful
Yeah,
life.
that we've done.
And we do have some money in there for sod and whatnot for replacement. But as this being an ongoing cost, I'm of the opinion that it wouldn't come from deferred maintenance. It would be an ongoing cost that we would need to budget every year. Now, we could choose on the deferred maintenance to free up some of that. We could choose not to replace some of those projects to free up the cash if we wanted to do it that way. But I don't believe it should come out of the deferred maintenance pot for that. Because you're taking money that's set aside for a one-time use for an ongoing use.
So if we go that route of having a budget line item, we have to go through the whole process where he won't get it till July, correct?
Unless we are willing to take it out of the discretionary funding, much like, the project with turf at the high school that we just, talked about. If we choose to do that, and if the board is of the mind that we could give permission for Dan to go out to bids and then just see how things come, and that kind of sets the stage for that project possibly being funded when they come in. And maybe there's a way that we can schedule the bids for the sound, whatever you call
We're
them.
gonna have to move one
Yeah,
year shell
some-
thing.
That's what I was thinking. What if we just scheduled a special board meeting after we get the bids in from both of them? And then we can discuss it from there.
Can I bring up just one point too, Scott, because we would be going to bid and you're not paying for the contractor up front. I mean, even if we receive the prices for the May, you're not going to actually receive your first bill until June for half a month of May, possibly. You're only talking about a month and a half that you would defer any project cost.
That is correct.
Unless you
However-
deny it.
However, we need a purchase order to be generated, which means you have to have the budget money
Encumber the
to
money,
do it before
okay.
they start it. So the actual, in terms of the actual payment, that's correct. But we would need the budget money in place before we started that work.
But I think if we go through an outside contractor, wouldn't that contractor be responsible for insurance liability to not put the school district
Yeah, it's required.
in responsibility if somebody got hurt?
Yeah, if anything was over $100,000, they're required to provide bonds. And as part of business, they're required to have their workman compensation. They use, almost everybody who works with us turns in an insurance certificate showing that they're covered by workman comp. They have, their own liability insurances and stuff. That's normal procedure for us.
Okay, what would you guys like to do? I kind of like your idea, Mark, of maybe scheduling a meeting for March. See if-
Yeah.
Because by then we can have the bids for both projects and see where they're at. And then if it gets approved, then he's got the money to move forward and we can move forward with the shells if that comes through and we need more money.
And on this, would this be this is year to year, am I right?
It would be.
So if we decide not to do it the next year, we just don't put money forward. I mean, we're not tying ourselves into a 20-year contract here, are we?
I think
No.
once you put it in there, it's gonna happen unless you take
Yeah.
action to stop it.
Scott, is that something that could happen? The board could take action to stop it.
Well, you can only encumber the board for 1 year at a time.
So
Anyway,
we would
so-
rebudget each year for that.
Yes, you could have a
Okay.
multi-year contract, but for budgets, it would be a year at a
Okay.
time. And I'm wondering if it would be prudent for this board to give Dan permission to go out for bid for that project. And then it's on the records that, yeah, he's got the support of the rec board, at least for what he's doing. But I do have a question on some of the fields, Dan. Is the baseball field over at the junior high, was that included in your analysis?
I didn't see it, the softball
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
It's not the junior high and the high school are not, nothing for
Okay,
them.
do they use that field over the summer?
The little league guys do, and the board has purchased drag lines and everything.
Girls.
So, I mean, we can maintain that field getting back to, Matt's concerns. If we don't have to worry about those other fields, that is something I think that we can probably do as good a job, if not better than anybody, because a lot of times when you have to drag a field and put in the clay, it's, prior to a game or a practice. And being right here, there's no reason why, if it shouldn't be stellar, especially if they're not doing 28 acres, additional, acres that they're currently trying to have to take care of. So, again, I think that that's something that we can maintain.
Okay.
Well, I agree with you, Scott. We need to at least agree or make a motion to agree that you go out to bid and then possibly piggyback that with a meeting in March when we get the information.
Yeah.
And that way we can make a decision with the right.
We have to set a date for you to get that into public notice.
I'll take care of that. When these bids come back, then I'll start sending an email out about what needs to be.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to take the board's action of going out to bid to get some direction on both the shell and the
I'll motion.
I'll second.
I can motion to make it easy for Tonette. Okay. Make a motion to approve to proceed with going out to bid for the maintenance of district fields from May 2022 through September 2022 for the fields that were identified in Dan's presentation. Ideally, we would name them out, but yeah.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, board information. Is this you, Kelly?
Number 11.
I didn't read
Oh,
in the board documents if I am back on this or not. I didn't see it yet.
you.
Okay,
Good.
good.
So we're introducing John.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Okay, and then we'll go on to item 12.
That is just the yearly update in the bylaws of the rec board for me to go out to the administrators and directors and ask for project proposals. And then they're due by March 1st, but if we're going to have a special board meeting, I could bring those perhaps to that meeting. If the time works out on there and this board could get a head start on that.
All right, our next meeting's scheduled sometime in March, but the regular board meeting will be in May 5th. And then our next one after that will be June 27th. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Motion carried. Thanks for coming.
Yes.